Hello folks, Eric here at Plugivery. In today's video, we're going to see how my friend Jerry at In the Daw uses several P&M plugins to get a coherent vocal mix. As described in the previous video, each plug-and mix plugin does only one thing, but they do their task extremely well. Jerry takes advantage of that, first to fix the vocal takes with a touch of EQ, compression, and filtering. He then enhances each vocal tracks with specific effects that glues the whole thing together. As a result, the vocals sit perfectly well in the mix without having to push their levels to blend with the music. Over to you, Jerry.
Thank you for that awesome intro, Eric. Hello everybody, this is Jerry Mateo with In the Daw. Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at mixing vocals with the VIP bundle from Plug & Mix. So let's just jump in and take a look. All right, you guys, so let's start off by going over what these vocals sound like and what we're going to do to them. I'm going to start off by playing this track with the processing already on, and then we'll bypass it all, and we'll show you how I got there. So let's start off from the ending of the intro into the main part of the song.
Why do I try? She's got it bad for me. I sip on her poison tonight. She never had to be the one to come save my life. Oh.
All right, so in my opinion, this sounds really nice, and I really like the processing that I've done to it. Let me show you what this sounds like without any processing whatsoever, and we'll start at the very beginning of the vocals.
She's got it bad for me. I sip on her poison tonight.
So right off the bat, you can hear that these vocals are well recorded, but the microphone that I used was a little bit dark. This is a recording of the artist Joe August, and we did this in his living room, and there was no acoustic treatment in the room. So the recording was a little bit dark, and you can actually hear a lot of room tones with it. If I solo it up and play it back, you're going to be able to hear all of the reflections in the room.
She's got it bad for me. I sip on her poison.
So because of this, I tackled this in a very interesting way. My mindset was not so much trying to fight the room, but more, let's try to accent that and make this sound very spacious. That's why when I chose my time-based effects, I used them pretty aggressively to make sure that I was going to be able to utilize them to their fullest degree. Now, as far as my time-based effects go, I chose 3 really simple effects. I have, for my reverb, the P&M digital plate, basically an EMT style plate reverb. Really cool plugin. After that, I use the P&M EchoFlex, which is by far my favorite delay plugin right now. This thing is put on everything. I even put this before reverbs nowadays. And then last, I use the Dimension 3D, which is basically just a chorus plugin. Very simple. It has 3 buttons and 1 knob. It's just giving me a thicker sound while also having a nice stereo image to it. And let me show you what each of those sound like individually. This is just the reverb.
She's got it bad for me.
And here's the delay.
I sip on her poison
and the Dimension 3D.
She never had to be.
Now you'll notice that the Dimension 3D is pretty much invisible in the mix, but I like the depth that it adds, and it adds just a little bit of warmth to it. Now, as far as the vocal processing, I have a pretty extensive chain, but they're not doing too much crazy processing. This is more like just doing some corrective EQing, a little bit of compression, a little bit of saturation, and a little bit of limiting. So what I'm going to do is bypass all of them and walk you through the processing. The first thing that I did was I used the retro filter to help remove some unwanted low frequencies, and this is just really to get rid of any plosives or any rumble from the microphone.
She's got it bad for me.
You'll notice that instantly it seems to have a lot more high end, even though I haven't added any. That's just what happens when you get rid of excess low end. After that, I went for making this sound kind of thin. I used the retro EQ and I used the low shelf instead of the bell, and I just cut anything under 200 by about 7 dB. Let me show you what this sounds like when I turn it on.
She's got it bad for me.
I also utilized the mid bell and I made this super tight by clicking the button, and I just cut at about 600 hertz. And this was in order to get rid of more unwanted buildup in the lower mid range. You have to remember that this was recorded in a very, very badly treated room. So we're doing a lot of corrective processing before we can really start enhancing it. After that, we moved on to my enhancing EQ. And for this, I used the P&M Liquid Air EQ. This is very similar to a MOG style EQ or MAG style EQ, however you want to say it. You have an air band, you have 3 bells you can choose from. And for this, I only used the 830 hertz bell just to add a little bit of mid-range back into the recording.
She's got it bad for me.
Now you're going to notice that I'm starting to really bring out the character of the microphone because you can actually hear the distortion that happened because I was using a tube microphone.
She's got it.
Right there, you can hear a little bit of saturation. So now what I also want to do is I want to start to control the dynamics. You can see right here that we have a lot of dynamic parts. Right here, and right here. It kind of pops in and out of the mix.
She's got it bad for me. I sip on a poison tonight.
So what I wanted to do is I wanted to tame these dynamics, but not completely control them. So I used the electro-optical compressor, which is very similar to an LA two-way style compressor, only it's a little bit more aggressive. I find that it has a very simple layout and a very simple design, but it's also really, really aggressive, so you can really hear it working. For this, I aimed for about 2 to 3 decibels of gain reduction, and all I did was just set this knob and turn it to about here.
I sip on a poison tonight.
You can hear it's just kind of taming it. It's no longer out of control.
I sip on a poison.
And that's exactly what a compressor's meant to do. It's adding a little bit of character, but it's also just adding some control. After that, I wanted to control some of the unwanted sibilance that I've gotten from taking away so much low end. And I just used the P&M S Tractor, which is just a de-esser. Very simple. You have a sidechain, frequency selection, threshold, and amount. Let me show you what this sounds like without it.
She's got it bad.
And with it.
She's got it.
It's very subtle, but it's just taking away some of that excess harshness.
She's.
It's doing its job. I don't have to think about it. Now, next, I use the P&M Analoger. This is a really cool saturation plugin. You have tube and tape style saturation, and you can even have them both combined. You have your lows and highs, and then a drive knob. For this, I have the drive set to 27%, and I'm actually trying to accent and increase the amount of distortion that we got from the microphone. So if we bypass it,
she's got it bad for me.
And then we turn it on,
she's got it bad for me.
You can really start to hear the distortion coming in. And it's kind of a mix between the actual distortion that was in the microphone and the distortion I'm adding. But it's done in a really nice way because it's adding some character to it. Listen to the tonal balance, not just the distortion that's coming in.
She's got it bad for me.
You suddenly have a little bit more air and a little bit more low end. It's kind of bringing it back in, but not letting it be as out of control as it was before. This is also adding a lot of excitement and a lot more aggression because now it sounds like it's coming at you while still being controlled. So let's take this out of solo.
She's got it bad for me.
And if we bypass it all,
she's got it bad for me. I sip on.
Really cool. So for the last thing that I did on the actual vocal channel is I used the P&M Ultra Maxit. This is just a limiter. And I have this set up to not increase the peak volume, only the RMS. And I do that just by increasing the gain a tiny bit to do maybe 1 or 2 dBs of limiting. And I have the output ceiling brought down so it's the same initial volume. Let me show you what this sounds like without it. And this is most prominent right here.
I sip on a poison.
that on.
I sip on a poison tonight.
It's just barely tapping it, but it's adding a little bit of color, and it really helps it sit on top of the mix. Now, for everything else, what I used is this plate, the Echoflex, and the Dimension chorus, and this is going to give it that big sense of space, and it's also going to help maintain dynamics while also allowing me to have a very controlled, processed vocal.
She's got it bad for me. I sip on a poison tonight. She never had to be the one to come and save my life.
And there we go. That's all I did. This is really simple. As you can see, all I really did was find a problem, fix the problem, and then use some simple tools to color and enhance the vocal performance. Now, there is one last thing that I want to show you. You can think of this as a little bonus tip. I want to show you guys why I like this Echoflex. For this part right here, the vocal just kind of goes into oohs and ahs and then kind of gently goes away. And without any of these time-based effects, it sounds a little bit dead. And with them on, it has a lot more life, but it's still missing something. So what I ended up doing in the final mix is I automated the Echoflex and had it basically swell into itself, utilizing the send into it. And then I gently bring it back down as I want it to slowly drop out. Let me show you what this will sound like.
The one to come save my life.
There you go. As you can hear, that little ooh at the end is just really cool. If I don't automate that, you can still kind of hear it, but it's not going to be as cool or as spacious. You still hear it, but it's not as in your face and it's not as cool sounding. It doesn't really catch your ear. It's a really cool tip, and I highly recommend you also utilize automation along with processing on your vocals. With that said, that's pretty much all I did for this vocal. It sounds really good, and as you can hear, it's come a long way from its very raw sound into a very polished vocal that kind of stands out very easily. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and with that said, I'll see you guys in a few seconds. All right, you guys, so that was mixing vocals with the VIP bundle from Plugin Mix. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned something. I hope you also noticed that one of the things that I do is I constantly make sure that the vocals sound good in the context of the mix. In solo, they might not sound as thick or as warm as you might want, but in the mix, they actually sound perfect. It fits in exactly how I want it to, and it always sounds right on top of everything without sounding harsh or thin. So with that said, this is Jeremy Mateo with In the Daw, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks, Jerry. That really sounds amazing. I love the song. One last thing I'd like to add is that since there are no fancy graphic displays on the VIP plugins, users must use their ears rather than their eyes to tweak filters and compressors. Many professional engineers use P&M plugins for that specific reason. They're fast, easy to use, they sound great, and they don't disturb the brain with fancy visual layouts. In the next video, we'll look at mixing guitar tracks. Sounds like a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.
Got it bad for me. I sip on a poison tonight. She never had to be the one to come save my life.